Welcome, I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. This is my channel's weekly compendium for the week ending Monday, October 17th, 2022. Case file number 782, written by Vamplexia, an expertly brewed glitch in the Matrix. I work at a bar, and I'm the only daytime bartender available on staff at the moment. One of my main jobs is to make sure liquor and beer is stocked and ready for the dinner rush. When it's slow, I literally fully stock it to the brim as much as possible. Sell 3 beers, go get those 3 to replace them, etc. So it's like 2 p.m. and I notice we have some holes in the beer stock. I have a slow period, so I write a list. 1 Coors Light, 2 Lager, 1 bottle Well Vodka, 1 bottle Mezcal, 1 bottle Merlot. I take my list upstairs to our stockroom to grab the items. I remember grabbing the Coors Light and commenting to myself, the 24-pack is in a different place than it usually is. Which makes me look at the bottle as I pick it up, and I clearly read Coors Light. Okay, cool. I get my items and head back down to the bar to put them in their respective homes. Here's where things get interesting. The missing beer that I wrote down as Coors Light is not missing. The Coors are fully stocked. The Miller Lite next to it, however, is missing 1 single beer. Okay, no big deal. I must have mistaken the brand, it happens. Instead of going back upstairs to trade beers, I decide to put the Coors Light on the empty bottom shelf and decide to grab a Miller Lite later. So that's what I do. I put a single bottle of Coors Light on the bottom shelf. I close the cooler and go about doing some other work for the next shift. About half an hour later, a few of my regulars come in, and I know the one lady likes Bud Light, so I turn around to grab it out of the cooler and see that the Coors Light on the bottom shelf is different now. The Coors Light that I almost dropped on my way down the stairs to place it in its home, the Coors Light that I stared at 3 separate times and made mental notes about, is gone. In its place, a bottle of Miller Lite. Miller Lite, not Coors Light. No one was behind my bar but me. I will swear on whatever you want me to. I am dead certain that beer was a Coors Light. But sitting in its place on the bottom shelf is a single bottle of Miller Lite. The crazy thing is today, within the same 4-hour period, 3 separate people in my immediate world have had glitch stories. I was a mild follower before, but now I'm 100% convinced the Matrix glitched today. Case notes for file 782. An expertly brewed glitch in the Matrix. So I've been wondering, is the acceleration in the amount of glitches that are happening to people, especially disappearing object phenomena, is that related to universal instability? It's like the universe is losing cohesion. It kinda feels that way, doesn't it? In my core, something feels off. And it sort of feels like these disappearing objects they're disappearing because the universe is trying to realign itself. And these objects have to be in certain locations for certain purposes. It's all back to that butterfly effect. So I don't think these disappearing object phenomena events, or if they're transmuted or just moved around, switch locations, whatever it may be, when they're not where they're supposed to be, I think there's a reason for it. We just can't perceive it. But yeah, let me know if I'm the only one feeling that, like something is a bit off. Past decade has been a bit weird. Case file number 783, written by No Way Jose 919. The glitch is in the devil. It was like any other day for me. I grew up in the mountains of Puerto Rico, on a little farm where I helped my aunt and uncle with daily tasks. I would feed the animals, herd them back to their stables, clean up after them, etc. This particular day, my uncle had given me a remote control monster truck to reward me for all my hard work. I was so excited to play with it, so I immediately went onto the street to play. I was right in front of the house when this happened, although the view of my aunt and uncle's house was obstructed due to the huge fence and big trees. I was just minding my own business, playing with the remote control monster truck, when I noticed a dust devil. It was huge and it felt like it was calling to me. I got inside the dust devil. I saw a bright light and everything went completely white for a very long time. I honestly have no idea what was going on while everything went white, but when I finally came back to it, My aunt and uncle came running towards me. I was back in front of the house. They picked me up and kept asking me where I went and what I was doing. Apparently, I was gone for about an hour or two, and they couldn't find me. They were just about ready to go to the police when they found me. Such a strange day. I don't think I'll ever figure out what really happened. Case notes for file 783. The glitch is in the devil. So was this some sort of spirit that created the dust devil, and then when you were inside, isolated away from other people, somehow whisked away your consciousness to some other spot? I'm not sure what the white light was about though. Was that a near-death event, or did you actually die from a dust devil? Maybe there was no dust devil, and the white light was an alien abduction event. You were seeing the beam. Strange that it would be during the day, but probably weren't a lot of people around, so I could see that. The dust devil would just be your mind trying to make sense of it, creating an event that didn't really happen, but that would make sense to you, to block out the memory. Because usually, we don't just completely black out memories, we replace them with something else. Such a small and quick glitch, but it really does give me alien vibes. I like that. Hopefully they treated you well, if that was the case. If something like this happened where I had a memory that didn't seem right, I wouldn't want to try to get to the bottom of it, if that makes sense. You know, going to hypnotherapy and stuff like that to unlock the repressed memory. I'd be a bit nervous. I'd let it be. But that's just me. Maybe what you'd find out is actually a positive thing. Maybe it is just some entity messing with you. But the white light, that's the weird part. Bonus file. Written by Iger, Loki at the truck stop. This all happened about a decade ago at a travel center in Las Cruces, New Mexico. I worked a night shift as a prep cook there. While there, I had a few strange experiences that I'll detail now. The first was pretty standard. I was chopping onions, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw a figure walk past me and stop in the corner. When I turned to look, no one was there, and I felt the base of my spine go ice cold. Now, to clarify, my family has a history with spirits. Had a great-grandma who was a medium. I used to see shadow figures all the time in my childhood home, until I was 15 or so. And then started seeing them again when I was in a deep depression with suicidal tendencies. Much better now, in my early 20s. That chill down my spine always accompanied these experiences, and I use it as an indicator a spirit is near. Anyway, after that first experience, I started to ask around, and this was a common occurrence here. 3 or 4 people had the exact same thing happen. Busy with a task, a dark figure at the edge of their vision walks by. When they turn to look, it's gone. It would happen again occasionally, but I'd just ignore it. The second thing that happened wasn't a single incident, but something that happened regularly, usually after seeing it in the corner of my eye again. Part of my job as prep cook was making large batches of soups and chilies for the next day. I'd put these 5-gallon pots on the burners with the meat to start browning, turn to chop the veggies, and when I turned back, all my burners would be off. Fairly innocuous, but it happened too often for it to be my error, and again, it was accompanied by a chill down my spine. The final incident actually happened to someone else, but I was present for it. To explain, here's a quick rundown of how our walk-in was laid out. The door was in my prep kitchen. Inside the walk-in was a second door that led to our freezer. The freezer had its own light switch that was located in the regular walk-in fridge. So the line cook goes into the walk-in. I think nothing of it until he comes out hot a few minutes later, wanting to kick my ass. After I calm him down, he tells me he was in the freezer section when all of a sudden the lights turn out and he starts hearing a man laughing, coming from the main walk-in. I let him know that not only was it not me, but I'd been in the kitchen the whole time and no one else had gone in. He goes white as a sheet and doesn't want to talk about it anymore. Anyway, those were my experiences at that truck stop. Thankfully, I don't have much contact with the other side now that I'm in a much better headspace. Case notes for the bonus file, Loki at the truck stop. Yeah, so the chill down your spine, a lot of us get that, and it's no joke. It's sort of our natural, innate spidey sense, and we all have it to one degree or another. But related to supernatural forces, that's less attributed, or at least less acknowledged. But I do believe it's a superpower we all have that isn't discussed very often, but should be. Now, if this was a trickster, some, not malicious entity, but just some echo that wants to have fun, it goes beyond what I would do. This induces a bit too much fear. Shutting off lights, okay, but the creepy laugh, that's too far. For me anyways. For instance, my current pranks on my roommate involve, plastic wrap in inoptimal places or peanut butter on doorknobs, although Mr. Ben usually takes care of that before the prank is initialized. And there's a lot of supernatural forces that seem to emanate from New Mexico. Sort of like it's a fulcrum for supernatural events or forces. Wonder why. And it's not just spirits, there's more alien activity there too. Why do aliens like that particular spot? Hi folks, just a quick update. As you know or may not know, I've turned on channel memberships now. There are 2 tiers. You can support the channel if that's all you want to do for $1 a month, and you'll get special emojis and a channel membership icon next to your name if you ever comment, so people can know you support, and obviously I tremendously appreciate it. And also, for $5 a month, you can gain access to special fictional horror stories that I'm narrating, exclusively for Patreon members and channel members. Case file number 784, written by Small Children Irk Me. I skipped an entire day. This first happened to me in the mid-2010s, and happened again this week. This week, I had a doctor's appointment scheduled on Wednesday. Well, on what I thought was Wednesday, and was actually Thursday. I was getting ready when my mom asked what I was doing. I told her I had an appointment, and she said, "No, you had one yesterday." I told her, "No, it's today. I've had it scheduled for over 6 months." She again says no, and that I already went yesterday. I thought she was messing with me, so I turned on my phone and went to show her the date, but it was in fact Thursday. I have no recollection of Wednesday. I don't remember going to the appointment. Going grocery shopping afterwards? I don't remember anything. To me, it was like I went to sleep Tuesday night and woke up Thursday morning. But apparently, Wednesday did in fact happen, yet I have no memory of it, and it's messing with me severely. I feel off and dumbfounded. I even checked my health portal, and lo and behold, my after-visit summary was there, along with the notes from the doctor. I also checked my bank app, and there was in fact a purchase made at the grocery store I apparently went to after. I feel like I'm going insane. My brain just skipped this entire day. This happened back in the early 2010s with my brother, where we seemingly skipped a random Wednesday, which makes this even more confusing. It isn't a single occurrence. Case notes for file 784. I skipped an entire day. So at first, I thought this could be a medical issue. There are conditions that can wipe out your memory for a single day. Could even be drug related. Maybe someone swiped you at the doctor's office. Maybe the purchase made at the grocery store wasn't yours. However, after you mentioned that this happened before to you and your brother, well, that makes it less likely to be a medical issue, unless it's some sort of genetic factor. It's also very interesting that it happened on a Wednesday again. Is there some relevance to Wednesday specifically that would cause this? And of course, it does appear that it's just memory loss. You still go about your day normally. You weren't abducted by aliens or anything like that. You also weren't in some sort of space-time warped zone. You just were going about your day, and your brother in that one time. If it's not a medical issue, that would disturb me greatly. Both of your brains just didn't register into long-term memory a single day, and specifically on a Wednesday. Bonus file, written by The Otter. I bargained with a Daemon. I, 26 male, live with my wife, 25 female, in a smaller apartment near the Appalachian region. We kinda set out on the outskirts of our city, so we're still close to civilization, like 5 to 10 minutes away. I've always suffered from night terrors and intense nightmares all of my life. In instances of this, I've been told I talk, scream, sit up rapidly, and even stand, but not sleepwalking as I've been told. Once we moved into our current apartment, the terrors increased, and then I began to experience sleep paralysis, I assume. In those moments, a lady would appear. The more I got them, the closer she would get to me. Eventually, she got to my bedside and in some cases even sat near me and watched. In early cases of it, I would even witness her stumble out of my closet from a scuttle hole that leads to the attic. The hole is locked and only the landlord or maintenance can open it. The lady has a unique appearance because she doesn't have features or an appearance, like from a horror movie or even a game I've seen. She is tall at around 7 foot, above 200 centimeters, with long limbs as well. She is very skinny in a yellow dress with a pattern I can't make out. She has about shoulder length black-brown hair. But the one major feature is she has a very large vertically turned single eye with a golden iris that takes up the place for features on the face. After they got too intense for me, I spoke with a close friend who is currently in school for psychology and to become a therapist like his father. He did a paper on my experience and found that there were a few other people with a similar experience like me that live states and even countries away. After that point of trying to look into it, I became worried. I know I have created a tulpa, which is a being that begins as a figment of one's imagination but progresses into physical manifestation. Because the experience started happening more and events began outside of sleep. I started seeing shapes in dark rooms, hearing talking or noise in rooms no one was in, and things being moved frequently, and doors just randomly opening. Once all that started happening, my wife began looking into banishments and cleansed the apartment more frequently. Things got quiet after that, and began to study as well from her and others around her to help things get cleansed. For almost a year now, things were good. No terrors, paralysis, or high strangeness in our home. Until last week, my wife had an instance of OCD because the remote that adjusts our bed was missing off my nightstand. We don't have too much in our bedroom, so it couldn't have gotten far. After 2 hours of searching with no luck and helping her calm down, we finally just went into bed without it. Shortly after, I started to experience a moment of paralysis again, but it felt different. I felt like I was no longer in my room, and the lady from before at my side again was also different. She gave off a much more powerful energy, but also I felt desperation, but calmness from her as well. So the instances were not terrifying. She spoke to me and I couldn't fully understand, but I had a feeling she was wanting to bargain. She offered something lost for some life. Unsure of what this meant, I agreed because I was confused on what truly was happening. Once I did, though, she began to climb over and sit in my lap. In a polite way of saying, we had relations at that moment, but I still felt partially bound, so I could not fight back. Once it was over, things faded to black. Once I woke up, I had the remote in my head. I was holding it with such a death grip my fingers hurt just to let go. I was fully uncovered as well as having some residue on myself and intense lower body pain. I explained to my wife the terror of the night and she is unsure of what to make of this. The lady also returned the night before with another bargain, but I think I asked for more time. Since then, I still feel her presence by my side of the bed, and I think she's waiting for an answer. I'm waiting to know if anyone has any insight of what this might be, or if it's safe to continue the bargains. Case notes for the bonus file. I bargained with a Daemon. There's a lot going on in this story. The first is actually a disappearing object phenomena, with the remote, and other objects too that you describe, but this entity was able to steal it, effectively shifting it out of your dimensional realm, hiding it away, making a deal to return it. One that I don't think I would have taken. Life for the return of a remote? Not a good deal. But this deal is unlike anything I've read on the channel before. It's almost like a crossroads demon. Of course, your soul wasn't exactly on offer. Maybe that's what it was meant by life? I don't know. How could this entity take your soul? Or, another idea is maybe your wife was pregnant, and unbeknownst to both of you, this entity sucked the life out of that unborn child, early stages. In fact, maybe this happens more often than we know, and could be responsible for a lot of the miscarriages that go reported. One other thing that interests me greatly is who sets the rules for what these entities are able to do? As you describe it, cleansing worked, but why specific objects or herbs or whatever it was that you used to cleanse it, why do those work and only for a certain amount of time? Who sets those rules? God or the simulation developers? Case file number 785, written by Oscillating Ball Product. Error, cannot load object. This happened after work. I was changing out of my EMT pants, which have this small pocket on the leg, kind of down by the calf. I keep my personals in that pocket, so chapstick, my earbuds, which are wireless and in a case, and a microfiber cloth for cleaning my glasses. I folded my EMT pants up and then realized I forgot to grab my earbuds case. I had one earbud in my ear already, out of the pocket. I kind of thought to myself that I'm a dumbass because it's a pain to find the pocket and then pull anything out of it once my pants are off my body, but whatever. I found the pocket, and I know I was in the right pocket because I felt my microfiber and my chapstick, but I didn't feel my earbuds case. Keep in mind, this is a really small pocket. Like only my fingers fit in all the way, and my earbud case usually fills up most of the pocket. I thought to myself, damn it, I must have forgotten to put the case back in my pocket and now it's in the ambulance cabin somewhere. I was about to throw on a pair of shorts to go look in the ambulance when I thought to myself, well, I guess I should probably grab my microfiber cloth since I have the pocket pulled out already. I stuck my hand back in the pocket and bam, there was my earbud case, as well as my microfiber and chapstick still. Like I said, not crazy, but I'm convinced my earbud case just failed to load the first time. There was no space for it to hide. Case notes for file 785. Error, cannot load object. So again, this represents the fact that there are, I think, two different types of disappearing object phenomena. One where entities are taking stuff from us, and one where the universe is simply phasing objects out of our dimension or just not rendering them at all, like in a video game. It would explain why objects return sometimes, and sometimes right away. It was just a glitch from the universe itself, and other times it's an entity, whereas you can actually ask them to return the object and they'll return it. So that seems to be what's going on here. There's entities involved from other dimensions, I guess, and then also the universe just isn't completely perfect. Not as perfect as it tries to maintain a presence of. Case file number 786, written by IMWG. The Well-Brewed and Bubbly Glitch. I've been going over and over in my head to make sure this wasn't a hallucination or other explainable thing. I already have exhausted my options. 2 years ago, me and my girl moved to a different city and rented a room in a shared house. It was a very small room, just space for a closet, a bed, a table, and one of those small fridges. Don't know if you got a word for it in English. After a few months there, the virus had hit, and one of the times I went out to buy supplies, I also bought, of course, 4 beers. I put all 4 in our small fridge. I opened one, she opened one. I finished first and got my other one in the fridge. I don't remember if the thing had happened by then or not. And then she asked me to get another one for her shortly after. To my surprise, when I opened the fridge again, absolutely no beers were there. It should have one, hers. The fridge was empty. We used the main fridge downstairs for other stuff we wouldn't use soonish, so it was easy to see that there was literally no beer or nothing in there. I asked her to look at me. She was pissed off at first, thinking I had drank hers too. Then she confirmed that she wasn't seeing the beer either. I went over the store receipt, 4 beers, I didn't miscount. I looked everywhere around the room. She helped as well. We only found 3 empty bottles. She took a picture of the empty fridge and sent it to a friend who replied, "Yep, nothing there." So maybe hallucination is off the table. We went to sleep that night. She left soon to work. Essential worker and restrictions were also not that bad yet. I worked from home, so I stayed in the room all day, even checked the fridge again just in case she was trying to prank me. Nothing there. Went out to meet her by the station and also bought one more thing for the meal I'd cooked that I'd forgotten the day before. I also bought some yogurt, and when I went upstairs, opened the small fridge to store the yogurts, what the hell do I see? The freaking lost beer. To this day, I have absolutely no idea what the hell happened. If it was a glitch, have the beer entered a multiverse for some hours and got back? Was it all in our heads? It was absurdly weird to experience, especially for me being a very skeptical person. Case notes for file 786. A well-brewed and bubbly glitch. I'm quite convinced that the universe is a simulation of some sort. However, running the simulation, because there's so much detail in the universe, would be incalculably complex. Even with all the computational power that the real world might offer, I think there are certain liberties and technical wizardry that has to be involved for it to appear as seamless as it does. For instance, there's rare occasions where people report that the sun just blips out or they can't hear anything at the same time. Sort of like all the simulation just fails to process for a tiny amount of time. Like the servers running the simulation are needed elsewhere for some other task, at least for a tiny amount of time by our perspective. It's almost like a memory leak occurs and RAM has to be cleared and reset. Hell, maybe even entire server crashes occur, but our memories are wiped, and that could be responsible for déjà vu to some extent. Case file number 787, written by My Theme, 1949. The pirates in our neighborhood mysteriously vanished. We moved into our home last year. A small, fairly new property with an odd layout that's out of character with the other houses around, most being quite old. Family and friends are not keen on the house, but we like it. There's a certain quirky charm. We have this long, thin, overgrown garden at the back. To the right is our neighbor's garden, tidy and a lot wider. To our left, we went back to the end of 3 other gardens, these houses being on the next street but backing onto ours. A few weeks ago, after a storm, while repairing the damage to a couple of fence panels, I realized something. Now, there seemed to be only 2 houses to the left. It was a strange feeling. Maybe we miscounted? The thing is, we remember details about the house that is no longer there. The houses are or were attached. One end house belongs to an old couple keen on gardening. The other end to a solitary older man with an aggressive dog. The middle house, the one that vanished, belonged to a family with teenage children. We remember noticing their old pirate-themed playhouse complete with a flag when we first came to view our home. Sometimes, we would see the older son playing on his computer from our upstairs window. Now we cannot even see his window, just a large tree obscuring the view growing in the corner of the gardening couple's property. The missing house had a trampoline in the garden. Before we could see standing in the middle of ours was a small yappy dog often running about, all gone. The 2 houses left are still attached. Each has several large trees growing in the gardens. We don't remember there being quite so many. The solitary older man's garden now seems too wide compared to his neighbor's. It doesn't affect us, it's just slightly unsettling and kinda cool in an odd way. Case notes for file 787. The pirates in our neighborhood mysteriously vanished. So I read further in the thread, and you do mention that the neighbors you talk to and you just ask about the history of the area, if they, also remember a house being there that isn't there anymore, pirate themed. Without directly mentioning it, because obviously you don't want to seem crazy, I get that. One thing that's possible is that the storm was actually more deadly than you think, and there wasn't just minor damage. Maybe this is a quantum immortality from your whole family. You suffered through a storm that was devastating, and you all died, and now you're in a different universe. And in this universe, there is a big change in that this pirate-themed home isn't there. That's quite sad. I don't want to miss a pirate-themed home. That's awesome. I want that. Case file number 788, written by Big Little Bry. No engine can do this. So, I went to pick up some food from a restaurant at the mall. I've been to this restaurant a ton of times. I got back to my car after picking up my food, put my GPS on, and started driving my usual route. There's this loop on the way to my boyfriend's house that I have to take on the highway that I always remember because it's a little tricky to merge back onto the highway. I took this loop and headed to the direction of my boyfriend's house, which I'm used to. I blanked out for a second, looked down at my GPS because I didn't recognize where I was, and I noticed there's a turnaround coming up on my GPS. I look up and realize I'm approaching the light where I turn left to go to the mall restaurant. I was extraordinarily confused because there's no way I could have gotten off my highway after the loop and go back in the direction of the mall. I looked at my GPS just to double check if I accidentally put in another address because maybe I was in car hypnosis and ended up looking at my GPS and going the wrong way. But no, it was directing me to my boyfriend's house. I always put on my GPS out of habit, even when I know where I'm going, just to keep up with delays. I was so confused and shaken up by this because I have no memory between getting off the loop and merging, and then ending up back near the mall. I'm still so confused about how this happened. Also, yesterday, I was driving with my boyfriend and there was a tow truck transporting a small truck. I looked in the small truck and saw a man in it and glowing lights, like he had neon lights in his car and a bright radio display or something. I immediately pointed it out to my boyfriend because I thought it was funny that a guy was just chilling in his truck while getting towed. I speed up and get near it so my boyfriend can see, and surprise, surprise, nobody was in the car. What's happening? Case notes for file 788. No engine can do this. So at first I was just thinking, okay, you're driving, higher chances of death, could be quantum mortality, but then you mentioned this figure in a car being towed. Maybe it's some sort of spirit that's haunting the highway? Why? I don't know. This maybe could be an explanation for all these events where people are just zapping forward in time or in space without any recollection of traveling that distance. Some sort of entity that continuously possesses people in specific locations and just wipes their memory as a result? I'm not sure though, because this can happen to multiple people in the same car. So is this entity possessing multiple people at the same time? Is that possible? Case file number 789, written by Breaking My Habit. I know he was in bed. I'm not a superstitious person. I don't believe in ghosts or anything like that, and I've never experienced anything like this before, but after what just happened, I'm covered in goosebumps and I don't have an explanation. It's honestly terrifying. My boyfriend texted me that he was going to bed from his office. I got up a couple minutes after he sent that and headed to the bedroom. When I opened the door, I saw him lying down in bed facing away from me towards the wall. I swear I saw him and his hair. I asked if he was okay and I heard him mumble a response. I didn't completely hear, but it was his voice. I looked away for a split second to put down my water bottle on my nightstand, and he was suddenly gone. I panicked. I thought maybe he was playing a prank on me and was hiding behind the bed. I told him it wasn't funny. I asked where he went. It's a narrow bedroom, so he couldn't have walked past me. I go to look behind the bed, absolutely losing my mind, and he isn't there. I keep asking where he went, hoping that he will come out and it's all a joke. He wasn't hiding anywhere behind or under the bed. I'm still freaked out because I was sure I also heard his voice and saw him. At this point, I go back into the hallway completely panicked, and a few seconds later, my boyfriend walks out of his office. He was really confused to see me so panicked and asked what was wrong. I didn't even know how to start to explain. He was never in the bedroom. We are both freaked out. Case notes for file 789. I know he was in bed. So this triggered a memory in the deep recesses of my mind. I remember having a teddy bear when maybe I was 8 or 9, living in Saint-Eustache, a little town in Quebec. But I remember looking at the teddy bear as I was getting into bed, and then looking back over, like 2 seconds later, and the teddy bear wasn't there. So I guess that was my first glitch before the tennis balls. A teddy bear was stolen. But I didn't really give it any thought back then as a kid. I don't know why, because it is very weird now that I think about it as an adult. But yeah, back then it was just like, okay, I guess the teddy bear's gone. Never saw it again. It was a Winnie the Pooh themed. In your case though, obviously not a teddy bear, a real life human being. A man, and he just wasn't there. And I don't think it's astral projection. He was still awake, not affected at all in any conceivable way. The only thing I can think of that makes sense is that you just were seeing into a different universe parallel to ours, and in that universe your boyfriend was in bed earlier. That's simple, and I think it explains a lot of things. We're able to see into other universes, perhaps more often than we realize. But only see, not necessarily cross over, unless we die. Creepy file number 51, written by Tea Time at 3. The dumbest hitman in the world. To give a little context, I used to work at an apartment complex. As a result, I've had my fair share of creepy encounters. Most residents keep to themselves and don't cause issues, probably about 95% of the time, but the other 5% took up almost all my time. Isaac was one of the 5%. When he first rented his apartment, he definitely had stoner vibes, but he was nice enough and passed his background check. Almost immediately, however, he started causing issues. The lady next door complained she could smell his smoke constantly. The guy downstairs complained he could hear his stereo all hours of the day and night. Another resident accused him of following him home one night. The police were regularly there breaking up fights between him and his girlfriends. We caught him hiding 2 large dogs in his apartment and he regularly let them run loose, which ultimately resulted in another dog and 2 people getting attacked. He accidentally discharged a gun in his apartment once. Needless to say, he caused a lot of issues. At first, he was very apologetic and said he would make an effort to remedy the problems, but things kept getting worse, and after a year of weekly calls or notices from the office, he eventually became standoffish. One morning, I received a call from Isaac, letting me know he'd broken up with one of his girls and she wouldn't leave the apartment. He asked me to personally come up and remove her. I'm a small woman, so even if I wanted to take the risk, I physically wouldn't be capable of wrestling an angry woman out of his apartment. I suggested he call the police. He then asked if I could make a maintenance man come up to remove her. I offered to call the police on his behalf, but Isaac said he didn't want to involve them and hung up. A few hours later, Isaac came down to the office with a jump drive and said he needed to print out a 50-plus page document. Residents weren't technically allowed to use our office printer, but on the rare occasion someone asked to, I usually didn't say no. It was an easy way to build good rapport. But between Isaac becoming such a problem tenant and how large his document was, I told him I couldn't print his document. I gave the excuse that our paper, toner, print history was monitored and we would get in trouble for printing such a large document out for him. Not liking my answer, he started screaming about how it was bullcrap. He accused me of being useless, bringing up my refusal to fight his ex and power tripping. He called me a freaking B word multiple times and said someone needed to bring me down a peg. I was pretty over him at this point and told him that if he was going to behave like a child that he needed to leave. He told me I couldn't make him. Bluntly, I told him he would leave or I would call the police and have him removed, but also told him I would ban him from the office going forward. Normally, I tried to kill the residents with kindness, but his lease was ending in a week, and I didn't care anymore if he hated me. My threat seemed to work. He angrily knocked over my pen holder and then slammed both doors hard as he left. The following morning, a cop was waiting for me when I got to work. He asked if Isaac was a resident, and I confirmed he was. The officer explained that the body of a teen had been discovered the day before, and Isaac was their prime suspect. He was the last person to text the kid asking where to meet him, where his body was found shortly after the message. The police believe Isaac had been paid to kill him. Based on the timing of the text and when the boy was discovered, Isaac would have to have left my office and gone directly there. Ultimately, the police wanted to use Isaac's move-out day as an opportunity to try and catch him. To nobody's surprise, he did not show up. When I walked his apartment to inspect for damage, there was a lot. I found a bank receipt from the day of the murder. Someone had wired him $17,000. I thankfully never saw Isaac again. He was caught in another country a few months later and is now in prison. Case notes for Creepy File number 51. The dumbest hitman in the world. So, not too much to say on this one. It's rather comical at the ending, and justice was served, which is nice. But not exactly the brightest bulb, is he? You'd think if you're a hitman, you'd try to hide it better. Be a positive member of society, and engage with your neighbors well and sincerely. But again, that's the whole thing about this story. He wasn't exactly smart. And so, he's in prison. That's one thing they say. Prison isn't necessarily where all the bad people end up, it's where all the dumb criminals end up, and all the smart ones are in Washington, D.C.